we have a volunteer here to get the cake. We have lots of delicious cakes. Thank you, Mrs. Alexander and your sister for making all this delicious food for tonight. And thank you for thinking about Aliyah, which is, I can't imagine Yossi's Yahrzeit as tragic as it would be in any other place. Just to review the schedule for tonight. How's the sound? Everyone hear? Can you hear well? Sounds good? Good? Powerful? Mindy, don't make it go live yet. Don't make it go live yet. You made it? You did? Okay. Whatever. Still good. Oh, this is the mic. Okay, everybody, there's hot food. I'm blocking. That's from your angle. From this angle, if I move, I'm blocking that way. Oh. Whatever, he put it live already.
Huh? What?
He already put it live.
It's already online?
Wait, make sure, am I blocking the red on the screen over there?
Oh, yeah.
I am?
Move this way.
This way?
This way, and I...
Mindy, can you, I know. It's not going to be synced. It's about a minute delay.
Oh, it is a delay.
It's a minute delay.
A minute?
Yeah, because it's, this is not for the internet.
Rabbi, they're looking at you right now. Please stop jumping around. You're moving too much. Rabbi, I'm the video director. Please stop.
Okay, am I blocking the red?
No problem.
They can hear me, and they're going to look at a vision of a minute delay.
Good guy. Good man.
They'll hit the mic. There's no sound there.
Oh, no sound.
There's no sound, so you're just going to see. It's going to look a little weird, but it'll sound fine.
Okay, now let me just see. Wait a minute.
Either way you are. No. You're being the way you are. We're all being the way we are.
We don't know yet. Have to wait a minute.
To see you. Now let's see. Wow, it's happening.
Not that they see everything. Not that.
No, we're on delay a minute. Relax, and you relax.
What should I?
Yo, you're really embarrassing
It's
me
more,
right now.
it's more than a
Look what you're doing. Look what you're doing.
What's wrong with this?
You guys are just chilling, making
more
like
than a
this.
minute.
Come on, guys. Say a speech. Say something nice. Oh, Nothing's like, what? What? I'm alive? Not this like, I'm live? Yo, that's another thing. He saw nothing look. He's like, oh, I'm live? Oh, you're right. Oh, you look good, dear.
I was like, now go back. Doesn't make sense. Oh, yes, you are good. You was good before. It wasn't good.
Now it's good.
Before it was good.
Yeah, from here it's good. I mean, you can see where the camera is. It's not blocking now.
Beautiful. Leo, honestly, look at the corner. Leo looks nice. Oh, no.
Brown, white, brown.
Antonio Brown, AB. Antonio A. Brown, AB. Probably he's the best receiver in the league. There's no one better than him. So wait,
You're
can I?
better than him.
Maybe. There's no reason.
No? I want to give a special thank you to Renata and Yossi for hosting this big party. Yossi. You haven't been here in a year. You're live on COL. You're live on COL. Look. You're live on COL. Yossi. Yossi.
Welcome everyone. Please fill up the place. There are buffets on both sides. Sit down.
Grab a seat.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the third Yahrzeit of my dear esteemed brother Yossi Alexander. We have a beautiful schedule planned for tonight. As most of you know, we're going to be having Rabbi Simon Jacobson join us in about a half hour or so. And we have a few small speeches in between. Maishi's going to get up and speak. My mother's going to say a few words. And we have a beautiful night. I'm going to start off with a short story, as I always like to do. And I think it's a really powerful story, and I think it resonates with many of us. And I think it's pretty inspirational. So the story is as follows. Many years ago, there was a boy named David. And David attended yeshiva. And unfortunately for him, he wasn't the brightest. And socially, he wasn't that successful either. So the doctor turns around to him and says the following. He says that there was a Lubavitcher Chassid who he knew, who has been to the Rebbe for Yechidus or whatever it was, and the Rebbe happened to mention precisely that passage, and the Rebbe gave his interpretation on what he thought it meant. And he said the following. This doctor told David the following. He said that back in the day, when the world was created, originally there was a male and a female Levyasan, but Hashem took away the female Levyasan because if Hashem would have left the female Levyasan, the world would have overpopulated with these massive animals, and it wouldn't exactly work out. So because this Levyasan, the male Levyasan, felt lonely, Hashem came out every morning and spent time with the Levyasan. And this is the end to the story, and which brings me to my second point. The point of the story is that no one is ever alone, no matter what, no matter when. And that is the second lesson that I learned from my brother, that no matter what we are, no matter who we are, no matter who we think we are, we're never alone. And there's always somebody watching us, there's always somebody taking care of us, and there's always somebody with us. With that, I'd like to start tonight's event. I'd like to call up Rabbi Moshe Feiglin to say a few words. I really hope you guys will enjoy the rest of the night, and thank you again for coming.
Thank you, Yossi. As usual, Yossi is always thank you, Yossi, for making tonight happen. I know that Yossi, we all remember Yossi in different ways, but everyone has a different memory of Yossi. I was fortunate to know Yossi in many different ways and through many different phases of his life. And
like I learned from everybody, I learned a lot from Yossi, a tremendous amount from Yossi. But before I get to what I learned from Yossi, we good? Hello? Okay. I just want to make everybody realize that for those who knew Yossi in the later years of his life, knew that Yossi was probably not the guy that would be able to get a crowd together. That if it was Yossi's birthday, and Yossi was making it for Ring and Aliyah, or Yossi was making a party, he probably would not have filled up a house. But tonight, we have a full house. We have people here who came for Yossi, who remember Yossi, and who care for Yossi, who love Yossi. And we see a very important lesson from here. Every single Jew is tremendously important. Every Jew is priceless. Every Jew is infinite. And this year, Shnas Hakel, 3 years after Yossi's Levaya, we are all here, and we're all commemorating his memory. And people who love him and care for him, even Rabbi Jacobson is coming to Aliyah tonight, and Simon is probably one of the hardest people in Chabad to come to an event today. Yet he is coming to Aliyah tonight for Yossi, even though he never met Yossi, but he heard about Yossi. So every single one of us is important. Every single one of us is priceless. There's no way to describe how important every single person is. And we have to realize our intrinsic value. And like it says in Chassidus, that every Jew is like limbs of a body. And if a single limb is missing, the entire body is incomplete. If Albert Einstein did not have feet, he would never have been able to go study in university. If a piece is missing from a puzzle, even if it's the smallest, most insignificant piece, the entire puzzle is incomplete. No matter how insignificant that piece might be, but that piece takes away from the completion of the entire puzzle. If a human being may not care too much about his toe, but as soon as he stubs it, he realizes how much that toe means to him. And we are all limbs of the single Jewish unit. And when a Jew anywhere in the world suffers, when a Jew anywhere in the world is having any kind of difficulty, then the entire Jewish world will feel the pain. No matter if you never met the Jew in your life, if you never saw the Jew, if you never heard of the Jew, if the Jew doesn't speak the same language as you, every single Jew will feel the pain when they hear about a tragedy about another Jew. You will not find this by any other people in the universe, only by the Jewish people. Yossi highlights that, especially here tonight, where people come 3 years after, and we see how important every single one of us is. We all play an intrinsic and crucial role to the purpose of civilization, to God's plan. And if any one of us does not fulfill our objective, to fulfill our own potential, it is a calamity, not just in our own lives, but it is a calamity for the entire Jewish people. Do not undervalue yourself, not even one slight bit. We are all priceless, and nothing short of being priceless. So tonight we're all here for Yossi's, unfortunately, sadly, it's already been 3 years, but we're all here commemorating Yossi's Yahrzeit, and we shouldn't have any more Yahrzeits. We shouldn't see any more young people or old people passing away, but we should only see Tchias HaMesim. And in this year of Shnas Hakel, when we're all here tonight together, let's all take upon ourselves one mitzvah, one good deed that we're going to do in Yossi's memory, in Yossi's chus, and let's take up something that we're ready to take upon ourselves. And with the power that exists in this room, with all of these special, tremendous, priceless neshamas that are here, if we all take upon ourselves one thing, that the impact is immeasurable, and we'll no doubt see tremendous results. No one should underestimate the power. So, L'chaim, thank you all for coming. And thank you, Mehdi, for your words. Mehdi is always a man of words.
and never lets us down, even especially on our dinner when your speech was out of this world. And we're going to keep the speeches short because Rabbi Jacobson is coming. And Rabbi Hashem is just going to share a few words, and we have Yossi Alexander's very dear friend, Shneir Foreman, and Mrs. Alexander are going to share a few words before Rabbi Surin starts to speak. So, welcome, Rabbi Natan.
Good evening, everybody. It's not exactly the most easiest, the most, I would say, the most exciting occasion to come here in Aliyah. Baruch Hashem, there's functions of Fabrengens and a lot of good activities going on here. But you know, from everything what happens in life is the Bachai Yitin Alibe. What we take out to do for the person who was nostalgic a few years ago. And I'm going to share with you in a few quick minutes something about Yossi, what me and him had a shaykhis, what me and him had connection, and of what goes on here on a day-to-day basis. And from year to year we see of the achlotas, what we take on here, including me and myself and Rabbi Feiglin, to become better, to be more devoted to the young men here, and the way they become more closer to Yiddishkeit. This is a short little story. I used to go out, I take out a lot of young boys, young chevron, and call them to have a lunch or maybe an early evening dinner. And Yossi used to be sitting here sometimes, and I say, Yossi, let's go. Where's your favorite place? He'd say Kingston Pizza. So we'd go there and go inside, and I would say to him, what do you want to order? He says, what do you mean, what I want to order? I'll have one slice. I said, one slice? We're having lunch. Take 2 slices, take something else. He says, no, then what happens if later in the day or tomorrow there's another young guy who you're taking out, and maybe you don't have the extra few dollars in your pocket to treat him out? I'm saying, Yossi, it's okay. Baruch Hashem. There's people here in our neighborhood. There's people, we have a lot of balabatim who help us, and we always have enough money to take out the young men. But he says, no, I'm just going to have one slice. So like this, for sure, the next one you take out, you'll have enough money for him. That gave me, it showed me ehrlichkeit, kindness, worried about someone else. But I also wanted to share, is, in the last 2 years, the hachlotas, the decisions what young men took on here in Yiddishkeit, if it's in film, if it's in kashrus, if it's in Shabbos. And to share with you one last little thing, we have here every 2 weeks a Friday night meal right here in Aliyah. So right after davening, we can sit down, we get delicious food from Mrs. Malka and from Mendy's. And the boy and the chevra really enjoyed. We get good food for them. We sit and fabrang. And it was a few weeks ago. It was a night that the Mets were playing. And there was a group of guys. I was sitting with them, and it was like maybe an hour and a half into the Suda Shabbos. I hear one guy asking the other, "Do you know the score?" And one says to the other one, "Do you know the score?" He says, "No, I don't know the score. I don't have a phone on me. We came tonight to Aliyah to daven here together with Reb Moshe and Reb Natan, to celebrate a Shabbos, to sit and eat and fabring and say l'chaim. We left our phones at home." It gave me the shivers. It was such a beautiful thing to see. That following week, I went to the Oil and I wrote to the Rebbe, Kuk of the Nachas of deine Kinder. Kuk of the Nachas, vi Baruch Hashem. Things are getting better. Guys are getting more into things, learning more and davening more. So I'm sure this Yahrzeit here, we're all going to take on ourselves to be good Yidden, to have love for another Jew, to go out that extra step, not just you doing a favor to someone when you're going that way, driving that way, to wherever you're going and do a favor to another Yid. No, go out of your way to make someone happy, There's nothing bigger than making another young Yid smile. So let's hope Yossi was looking down from your name on us. Yossi, bang on the doors from the tzaddikim and the Rebbe. And mit Hashem, we'll see the Rebbe B'Kar Mamash. We would like to ask a good friend of Yossi, Schneier Foreman, to come up and see if he wants.
Hello, everyone. I'm Schneier. It's really great to see all you guys here, honestly. I know Yossi's looking down right now. He's very happy to see all you guys here. I know we all don't want to be here, but I really wish I prepared something for today, but I really prefer to go into it like this. There's not a great moment in my life that goes by that I don't sit there and really just wish how he could be there, you know, sharing the moment with me, or at least if I could share like the way I feel, share some of the memories I have with him, you know, and I could just really say, don't take friendship for granted. You know, you guys have your homies here. You guys have the people you love. It's so tough. You know, Yossi was there for me through the years when I feel like I didn't really have anyone there for me. You know, he was one of my friends who I can safely tell you that without him, I can't even think back to grades 4 to 9, 4 to 10, and like think of any memories I have without him. He's so consolidated into my childhood, and it's just amazing. It's amazing to see. It's amazing to stand here and see how many of you guys came out for him, and how many of you guys I've seen here for the past 2 years. No matter what your schedules are, no matter how busy you are, you guys still manage to make it out here, and it's really beautiful to see that. So, Rabbi Feigelin and Menachem both touched upon how important it is to, you know, unconditionally love and just support the people that are there. And I just want to say, don't take that for granted. You know, it's not, a lot of people say it, but it's so important. You guys, you never know. You really never know who needs you there. You guys never know what your little bit of effort can do for someone, and what you can do to change how someone feels. The smallest ounce of you putting something into someone can make the biggest change, and you guys really need to remember that. The smallest thing, just you going and saying hello to someone on the street that you have no idea what they're thinking about, and just you going and trying to bring some light to their day can actually go and make that big of an impact. And I really want you guys to think about that and actually try to engage that throughout your day, if you can. Something that Yossi did is I'm going to try to keep it short, sorry. So, Yossi always unconditionally cared for the people around him. And something that I'll never forget until today. Forget till today, throughout today, after today. You guys should all do the same. Something I'm going to continue trying to do. Don't ever, like I said, don't ever take anything for granted. You guys have so much in your life to do. Most of you guys in this room are my age. We have the whole world out there. there's so much for us to accomplish. There's so much for us to do. A lot of us haven't even started yet. So don't take yourself for granted. Don't take any of this for granted, because you guys could really do whatever you want. And when you guys do things, keep Yossi in mind, because that's what I do. I try to do things. I try to do a lot of the things I do with him in mind. And sometimes when it gets hard, just know it can always be harder. It can always be harder. It can always get harder, and it should get harder. Nothing's supposed to be easy. Brooklyn College's motto is it's in Latin. It's nil sine magno labore, and it stands for nothing without great effort. And I know. I get to go to Brooklyn College, and sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm standing on Bedford and I'm so sad, and then I see Menachem walk by, and he just shoots me a smile, and he's like, "Oh, how you doing?" Asking me about my classes. I'm not even trying to answer him. I'm like, I don't care about my classes right now. And just nothing without great effort. Anything you guys want in this life, it's not supposed to be easy to get. It's supposed to be hard. It's going to make it that much more worth it. So, with that, like I said, keep your friends close. Cherish everything that you guys have, because life should never be taken for granted. Every moment you guys have, cherish it. L'chaim. Thank you very much. I just want to call up Yossi's mom, Mrs. Alexander.
I wanted to thank you, everyone, for coming. First years was so hard for me to talk about Yossi. When I would start talking about him, just 2 rivers would pour out of my eyes. The pain was so painful that you cannot even describe it with words. It still comes sometimes, the pain, but it's easier than the first year, but still. I still miss him every second of my life. I'm very thankful for you that you came to remember him. It gives me some nichama. It gives me nichama. We went today to cemetery. Actually, his Yahrzeit and Yudalev Kislev, but we went today. And I don't like to go there. I don't like to go there because, first of all, it's painful to see his name on a stone. And secondly, I feel he's not there. He's not there. He's here. He's with me. He's with us. And sometimes I just feel it. I just want to say that he was very, very kind boy. He cared for his friends. Just will bring 2 things. When he used to be, when he was very young, 15 years old, he used to be for 2 summers in a row counselor in day camp in Rabbi Yeshiva. So they put him in charge 13 boys, and Yossi 15 years old. And they went to trips on everywhere. They went once to Brooklyn Children's Museum. They went to Staten Island. I said, "No, Yossi, did you enjoy it?" He said, "Mommy, I cannot look around. I have to catch these boys. They're all running around." And when my older son got engaged, one of the Bachurim came to me and they said, Mazel Tov, I know not only Menachem, I also knew Yossi. So I said, "How do you know him?" I think the boy was 16, 17 years old now. So he said to him, he was my counselor during summer in the Rabbi Yeshiva. He said, "I had many counselors, but Yossi, it's only one that I remember." Why? Because when all the counselors, they have rest time or children were playing, the only counselor that played with me and gave me attention was Yossi. This is the way I remember. That's why I remember him from all the counselors. So, another thing, I'm just going to finish. I'm going to say that we gathered here. I heard this idea from one of the mothers that also lost a child, that we gathered here not because Yossi passed away, but because he lived, because his neshama came to this world, and I had the schut be his mother, and you had the schut to meet him. In my eyes, Yossi, his neshama kedusha. You can say that I'm not objective, but that's what I see him. That he's special, neshama kedusha that came to this world, and I had the schut to be his mother. When he was young, he once asked me, "Mommy, how rich are you?" And I said to him, "I'm very rich. I have 3 precious diamonds." When I answered him, I didn't know at the time that Hashem will take one of the diamonds from me. But this is the way world is. We are vulnerable. We come to this world. We ask Hashem to give us koch to survive in this world, to live to 120. And we hope He will not give us nisyonot. But this world is not a pink world. We come here, we're trying to survive. And thank you so much for coming and remembering with me my son. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Alexander, for those words. I know that it's not easy for you. I know that we drove together to the Yossi's caver today, and it wasn't easy. I could see Mrs. Alexander's face that when this day comes, it's a very painful day. And for everyone who remembered it was painful. You know, sadly, Yossi was not the first, and was not the last of our young members that I tragically had to attend a funeral for. And I pray every day that the last one will be the last, and all of them should come back down here in a physical body with Mashiach. But for all of us that are here now, we are Baruch Hashem, we're live with Guf Gashmi, and we still have a chance. We just said in Hayom Yom last week that Saint Krishna Shalayla is a microcosm of saying the vidui before passing away. However, the difference is when a person says vidui before he passes away, that's it. He has no more opportunities to do good. But when a person says Krishna before he goes to sleep, even though he's confessing for things that he did during the day, nonetheless, he's still in the middle of the marketplace, and he's still going to wake up the next morning, and he still has another chance to make a difference to this world. So all of us sitting here today at a Hakol gathering, Lil Nishmas Yosef Yitzchak, let's all remember that we are here, we are alive, and we have to reach out to those around us. And the most important mitzvah for us to do today is the mitzvah of Avos Yisrael, non-judgmental love, acceptance of everybody around us. Doesn't mean you have to accept all the behaviors, but you have to accept every single Jew. Everyone with a whole and open heart, and embrace them and welcome them and give them as if they're part of your own flesh and blood. Because essentially they are your own flesh and blood. So if there's anything that we can take home from this very, very special event tonight, remembering Yossi, before Rabbi Jacobson steps up to speak, it should be in non-judgmental love for every single Jew, no matter what he looks like, no matter where he's from, no matter how he behaves, because we never know who we may be standing from. He may look like a midget in our eyes, but he may be a giant in reality. So let's embrace everybody as if they are giants, because essentially every single Jew is a giant. So let's take that home, and let's take on a new attitude where we look at each other, where we look at a friend, and realize how precious and how priceless every single Jew is. And let's not, Rahman al-Islam, wait till we're at their Yahrzeit or Shloshim until we really come to that realization. We've had enough is enough. From now on, we should only see Chaim Nitzchi. Chaim. I'd now like to welcome Rabbi Jacobson, who's come to inspire us tonight. Rabbi is one of the most sought-after speakers in Chabad today, and we're very fortunate that he was able to give us a night at Aliyah. It's not Rabbi Simon's first time here. He's been here several times before, and every time it is priceless. So guys, everyone a round of applause for Rabbi Simon.
Thank you. This is also live streaming.
Yeah.
So
I know, I was watching.
Are you watching? You got
Where's the mother? Which one's the mother? Huh?
She's sitting over there.
Misha.
Guys, please take food quietly and sit down. We have a very limited amount of time with Rabbi Jacobson. We don't want to miss any of it.
So, Mrs. Alexander and rabbis and all of you special souls, thank you for the honor to try to humbly pay tribute to Yossi. I was listening to the proceedings here online, so it's working. And your moving words. And what can you say, about a loss and tragedy? And yet, as the Rebbe taught us, in the words of the Friedrich Rebbe, that it may be very difficult to speak, but it's even more difficult to be silent. So hearing that the Yahrzeit is Yud Aleph Kislev, right? So as soon as you hear that date, you immediately think of this month, which is full of special days, Yud Kislev, Tes Kislev, Yud Dalet Kislev, the Rebbe's anniversary, and then of course Yud Tes Kislev and Chanukah. So being that just tomorrow will be the Rebbe's anniversary, and it's in proximity with the Yahrzeit here, I want to share with you a story. It's a story that very few people know, but I heard it from the person involved. I think it's very appropriate, as I'll explain shortly. The story is about a young man who was in his late teens, I think approximately 17 or 18. And these were the years when people were able to go into Yechidus and have a private audience with the Rebbe. So later years, the Rebbe made it very clear that he's not depriving anyone, but it was through Farbrengens, through collective Yechidus. But he had a one-on-one with the Rebbe. And he's an individual that suffered greatly in many ways. First of all, he had a loss of a parent who died at a young age in an accident. And essentially was thrown from one home to the next, where nobody wanted him. And got himself into a lot of trouble, on many different levels. So he was by the Rebbe, and encouraged by some people to go into the Rebbe. The Rebbe is your father, is your friend, many things. And pour out your heart and soul. What better place to speak to someone than the Rebbe himself? And that's what he did. And he was told by people who knew the situation, don't hesitate, no filters, say everything, exactly what's on your heart. Don't try to be respectful or censor yourself. So that's what he did. He began to cry in front of the Rebbe. I heard the story later from him. And the Rebbe was very, of course, patient and very caring and loving, and listened closely to his whole story. And the Rebbe said to him the following words. He said that for every challenge God gives somebody, He always gives him also an equal amount of strength to deal with it. So though these challenges that you describe are great, but you have to know you have special strengths that came along. And though it doesn't justify what happened in your life, but it would be tragic if you didn't access the strengths that you also have and your potential. And the Rebbe went on and said that in the mysteries of God's creation, God leads the footsteps of people in many different directions. And sometimes we go through bizarre twists and turns. And even that is for a purpose. Because you have to remember that every situation, any experience that you have, you were sent to that situation because you can do something that only you can accomplish. And no one else but you can accomplish. And this includes even difficult situations. And the Rebbe told him briefly the story of Chaim Rappaport, who was a great tzaddik himself, but he was one of the students and colleagues of the Baal Shem Tov. And the Baal Shem Tov once sent him on a mission. And when he came back and fulfilled the mission, the Baal Shem Tov thanked him, but then asked him a seemingly odd question. How did you travel? How did you get there? So Chaim, even though it may seem who really cares which you went this way, that way, the Baal Shem Tov wants to know, so he began to share. The Baal Shem Tov wanted every detail. Every detail. Which city did you travel through? Where did you rest? Where did you sleep over? So he told him the first night he slept in an inn. The second night there was no inn, so he slept on the side of a road. And in the morning he woke up, washed his hands, said his prayers, and then sat down to have something to eat. And then he saw a brook of water, a spring of water, where he went over and took a cup of water, and made a blessing, Baruch Ata Hashem L'keinu Melech Ha'olam, Shehakol Niyeh B'dvarei, and drank the cup. The Baal Shem Tov jumped up with simcha, with joy, and said that spring of water, that brook of water was waiting from the beginning of time for you to come there and make a blessing on it. Think of the story. That means every experience, entire existence is waiting for you to come there and achieve something. And the Rebbe told us to this young boy and said, so whatever experience you have, that experience is waiting for you to do something, to use those special strengths that you were given. And then the Rebbe finally said the final thing, which was, remember also that I am always with you. No matter where you go on your journeys, I'm always with you, and I think about you. So if you think about me and I think about you, you'll be able to accomplish everything you need to accomplish. So you can imagine, he was quite overwhelmed. Frankly, he said he didn't even understand half of what the Rebbe said. He remembered it, but he didn't understand the significance till years later. We're talking now, almost 35, 40 years later. Due to his own confidentiality, I can't say his name, but he's a success story today. And it all began right that little yechidus of a father or a Rebbe speaking to his child in this personal way. I was thinking about it. The Rebbe's words, I think about you. So if you ever read Likutei Diburim, which talks of the Frierdiker Rebbe, is a beautiful, unbelievable, poetic piece right in the beginning of Likutei Diburim, literally the first pages. And the Frierdiker Rebbe says something very interesting. He says that when you have a friend, in a friendship, there are 5 levels of how you express friendship. One higher than the next. The lowest level, the first level, is what's called Shalom Aleichem. You see your friend, you welcome him, you greet him, shake his hand. Frierdiker Rebbe says there almost sarcastically, sometimes when you shake someone's hand, it means you're welcoming him, but also sometimes say, have a good day, I saw you, enough of you. So it is a greeting, but it's not the closest relationship. It's a connection. The second level is when two people have they embrace each other. They hug and embrace each other. So that goes beyond words. It shows an expression of real care, real concern, right, like that. There you go. Cameras. Want to do it again? Okay. That's only level 2. Now, level number 3 is having a conversation. Okay. Don't push it, right? Don't push it. Oh, we're going to go all the way? Good. Okay. Level number 3 is when you have a conversation. So it's not just Shalom Aleichem and not just a hug. You actually sit and talk to each other. And I don't mean talk about the weather or something superficial. A serious conversation, heart to heart, eye to eye. And that's only level number 3. Number 4 is staring at each other. You just look at each other. Sometimes you see people who really care about each other. They could just say they're not awkward to be quiet. And that's even deeper than a conversation. They say when the Rebbe reunited with his mother, the Rebbe Tzachana, after, what can we say, Tavshin Zayin, at least 30 years that he didn't see her. Probably more. So it was in Paris. It was in the year 1947. The Rebbe was the only time after he came to America, went back to France to greet her and bring her back to the United States. So people, eyewitnesses, saw that when they met, they embraced for 20 minutes and just looked at each other without saying a word. Because there's some things that are beyond words. So that's level number 4. But what's number 5? What's higher than that? So the Friedrich Rebbe says, machshava. When you think about your friend, even if you can't see him. I was in Russia under the Russian oppression. And the Friedrich Rebbe says, and where are you now? You're here. He says, because somebody thought about you. You know, basically the Friedrich Rebbe is saying that I thought about you, that's why you're here. So don't say thought doesn't matter. If it would have been the first 4 levels, the Friedrich Rebbe couldn't have done anything because he wasn't there with him physically. He couldn't give him a Shalom Aleichem or hug or conversation or stare at him. But a thought transcends time and space. This is the beginning of the Kutei Diburim. It's a very fascinating thing to read, to see, you know, how a Rebbe and how Chassidim, what means that Chassidim are connected. So we're here right now, and we cannot see the neshama, of course not the body of Yossi. However, never think just because we can't see him doesn't mean he can't see us. And just like we can't see the Rebbe doesn't mean he can't see us. Machshava, the Rebbe said to that boy back in the late 60s, when it happened, the story I just told, I think about you and you think about me and we'll be connected. So we don't know who's thinking about us because we can't always feel it. But don't ever think there isn't someone thinking. And if you wanted to become aware of it, you have to think about the one who's thinking about you. So I wanted to just open up with those few words because I think it captures very much, first of all, why we're here. And in a way, each of you in your own story. I don't know you all. I know some of you by face. We met at my Shabbos table a few times. But I know one thing for sure. Every one of you has a bizarre journey, to say the least. And frankly, everybody on earth has one, especially in our day and age. So you can look at it as overwhelming, as disturbing, as depressing, or whatever. Or you can look at it as the Rebbe said, that every journey comes with its strengths. And just imagine, it's true, there are many things that happen in your life, my life, and everyone's life, maybe we would rather it didn't happen. But after the fact, you have 2 choices. Either you just become demoralized and broken by it, and bitter, or you recognize that you were put there because you can achieve something that from the beginning of time, that experience, that encounter is waiting for you, each of you in your own way, to come and do something. And particularly the challenges that you may have open you up to different opportunities that others would never have. And that yechidus that the Rebbe, that young man, I believe is a yechidus that each one of you could have right now with the Rebbe, each one of us, because we're here right now, we have our challenges, we have our encounters, and we have a Rebbe that thinks about us. And we have other chassidim and we have friends that think about us. And the thought when it's a true thought. We're not talking here just some casual thought, but you really care and think about someone. There was a guy who went by dollars and said to the Rebbe that my son is gone who knows where, and I want the Rebbe to help me save him. So the Rebbe said, Halavai soll trachten wegen mir, wie viel ich trachte wegen ihm. Halavai, may it be that he should think about me as much as I think about him. Again, the same thing, thought. The thought. Because when you think about someone you love, there's some energy that generates and has an impact. So though it's 3 years, I did not have the schus to know Yossi. Maybe I may have met him, I don't recall. So those 3 years, and it's 3 sad years, and as a mother, as you are so accurately said, no one can ever understand the pain of a mother in such a situation. But you have to remember that though we may never understand the mysteries, the neshama lives on. The neshama sees us and sees you, and sees all the energy and the efforts that you invested and the seeds you planted. And there will be fruits, and there are fruits. Besides our gathering together, all the hachlotas and resolutions. Thought, the thought of a Rebbe, the thought of friends for each other. There's a story they tell talk about friends, again with the Rebbe, that somebody who was living in the Midwest, I'm not sure which city, but he was told by the shliach there that when he comes to New York, he should make sure go make an appointment and see the Rebbe. Okay, he had no idea why, but he was told by the guy, he respected him, he said, okay, let me do that. Comes to New York, goes into the 770, or calls, makes an appointment, and they gave him an appointment in the next few days. He was here for a few weeks. Okay. Comes into the Rebbe, his appointed time, always a little later usually, sometime early, like after midnight. The Rebbe offers him a seat, he sits down, and he's quiet. And the Rebbe says to him, is there anything I can help you with? So he said, not really. So why are you here? He said, because this and this rabbi told me I'd make you come to New York, I must come to see you. Now that I'm sitting here, I actually wondering myself why I'm here. So the Rebbe said, I'm not comfortable with someone being here who may not want to be here. But since you're here already and everything is divine providence, maybe you have something on your mind that you'd like to talk about. So he said, yeah, why don't you tell me? He had the chutzpah, of a regular guy. Why don't you tell me, why am I here? What's so special about you that the guy said, I have to see you? Why do people value you so much? I saw a whole line outside and people, you could see I don't know the word as they said, worship, they admire you. So the Rebbe smiled and said, I can't speak for them, but I could say, what I try to do is be a friend to everyone I meet. So the guy began to chuckle and say, a friend? What's so big about that? I have a lot of friends. So the Rebbe said, let me define what a friend is, and then you'll tell me how many friends you have. And the Rebbe said, a true friend is the following. A true friend is someone that you could speak to without any defenses up, without any hesitation, without fear of judgment, without fear of being criticized, heart to heart, as if you speak to yourself. That's a friend. So then the Rebbe looked at him and said, so tell me, how many friends like that do you have? He said, I don't have any such friends. I even wonder whether there is possibility to have such a friend. So the Rebbe again said to him, I try to be such a friend to people. In simple words, the Rebbe told him the essence of what a Rebbe is, just a friend. But we use the word friend so much today. People have thousands of Facebook friends and all kinds of other friends that it's meaningless. Most of these friends are not friends at all, but it's a word. United Airlines, friendly skies, It's an advertising gimmick. That's why it's important sometimes to step back and say, okay, what's a real friend? So how many of you can say you have a friend like this? By a show of hands. Anybody? One person, the whole room? A friend the way I described it now? Okay, that's good to hear. That means you have to make sure by next year that everybody raises their hand. No, I mean not forcing them to raise it, that actually have that type. Now, I understand the answer is very simple. As great as Rabbi Moshe Feiglin and as great as Rabbi Shem Tov is, they're not the Rebbe, right? However, the Rebbe gave us power to try to be friends like that to people. It's a great gift to be able to have someone you can speak to, who you know you can just speak to without any hesitation, without fear of judgment, as I said, and all the other stuff. Because there's just something about being validated, being reinforced. I'm sure if we went through and we turned this into a group therapy session, everybody could talk about their nightmares, about how no friends you had as you grew up. Sometimes our own families are not only not friends, they can be enemies. But definitely not an opportunity where you could just sit and speak to someone and speak your heart. Whatever age that is. It's the greatest blessing. I speak to many parents, and they always ask me, advice, what could you do? I said, what could you do? It comes down to something very simple, what you could do. Just be there. There's no gimmicks. You don't need to buy another video machine or take your child for another vacation, even those are all nice things. But if you don't give a child your attention, and you don't give your child a simple love, unconditional love of just that they can speak without fear, without, am I saying anything that's offending anybody? Or you guys are just not interested? Huh? Yeah, that's. I know ADHD is contagious, I know that, and if you sit with one person ADHD, everybody seems to get it. But anyway, I'm just trying to share a few words, and I hope I'm saying words from the heart. So, that doesn't mean, even if you had a situation where you did not have someone to speak to, doesn't mean you can't find such a friend. Because there are true people, and there are sincere people, and they're real people. So, with that said, I think one of the most important messages, especially as we're here tonight to honor a neshama that was torn away far, far too prematurely. So even if you don't do it for yourself, sometimes honoring someone who right now cannot physically continue his shlichus, his mission in this world, so every one of you who knew Yossi, or who's here, and even if you didn't know him, but we're here together because of him, has a real obligation. You have to, in a way, be the arms and legs in helping fulfill the reason we're here and his inspiration. And exactly as I said before, every one of you has a unique situation. And unique may be a strange word, but unique could be something even extremely difficult. But you have to always remember that from the beginning of time, the whole big plan was waiting for you to come to that situation and do something positive about it. And when you do that, you change the whole course of history. Literally. I want to share with you a story, one of the most definitive experiences that happened with me a number of years ago. Well, it's actually still happening, but it started a number of years ago. And that is this. When my book, Toward a Meaningful Life, was published, which was initially 1995, so it would be around 20 years ago. Yeah, time flies. I was a younger man then, what can I say? As we all were. Any of you were not born yet? Anybody here under 20? Huh? No. Okay, good.
How many copies?
You all look young to me. Huh?
How many copies were sold?
You want me to give a plug? Okay, announcement from our sponsor. How many copies? Well, in English, around 500,000, and with other languages, 13 languages, maybe 1 million total. There you go. I should have started with this. Now I got your attention. I understand. Celebrities get attention. Till now, I was talking like a humble chassid. Now I start talking about my author. No, I understand. Yeah, but what's 1 million among 7 billion people? Let's put it this way. So it's a long way to go. And I want to bless you all. Maybe you have a book inside of you, they say, or a poem or a song. So Thoreau, the great writer, once wrote that most men lead lives of quiet desperation. And there's a second half to that statement, which is attributed to him, but it's pretty sad. And they die with their song still inside them. So I'm blessing you right now that not only that you should make sure to sing your song, because everybody here has a unique voice, and a powerful, indispensable contribution to make. And now back to the story. So when my book was published, they sent me on the book publisher, William Morrow, today HarperCollins, they sent me on a book tour. You know what a book tour is called? Book signings. And you travel from city to city, bookstores like Barnes & Noble and other stores like that. And there's an evening is scheduled where you speak, and then you sign books, and that's that. Before I tell this story, I'll tell the story before this story because it's a good introduction. So in this journey that I took was also a bizarre journey because you meet in bookstores people that will not come even to Aliyah. How do you like that? And they won't come to Chabad house, they won't come to a shul, they won't come to any Jewish environment. But in a bookstore, completely non-threatening. Someone may go there to buy an auto repair manual or just sitting for a coffee. And there I am speaking. So people came over. And I met, I wrote all the stories down, actually fascinating interactions with all kinds of interesting people. As I said, people you don't meet in a regular setting because it's not like planned. And of course, the greatest magic happens in times like that. So the story before the story is I was in Lexington, Kentucky. Just to show you the Amunah of non-Jews is stronger than those of Jews, sadly. So Lexington, Kentucky is a city where there are less Jews there than those sitting in the room here. Ad kedei kach, to the extent there's no Chabad yet in Lexington. There's a Chabad in Louisville, Kentucky. So if you're looking at Shlichus position, maybe that's an opening there. You know, even if there's one Jew. So Louisville, Kentucky is very famous, known for the Kentucky Derby, right? Kentucky Fried Chicken, kosher style. By the way, there they don't call it Kentucky Fried Chicken, there they call it New York Fried Chicken. Because no one would buy it, everyone's local. You know, you always call it by a name. Tainuk Tmida ain't a time. Okay, that's a derech hag. So I come there in Lexington, Kentucky. It's a private bookstore called Joseph Beth. Just in case you're interested, it happens to be the Cincinnati airport happens to be in Kentucky. This information may or may not be important to you. There's a website called uselessinformation.com, by the way. I had a joke. It's great stuff there, but it's completely useless, you know. So this fits into that category. So I come there, in Joseph, this place in Lexington, and I come to the counter, and I tell the person standing there, the attendant, that I'm here to sign some books. What's the name of your book? Toward a Meaningful Life. So she looks it up on the computer, and suddenly I see her whole face and complexion change. Her whole personality becomes all like disturbed. I don't know why, I didn't do anything. And then she gets on the phone, she picks up the phone and whispers, I shouldn't hear, but I did hear. She whispers, the Lubavitcher Rebbe is back. Kid you not, it's a true story. You could just put it down. Because you see, the cover of the book is Toward a Meaningful Life, the wisdom of the Rebbe, Menachem Mendel Schneerson. And my name is on the bottom in small words, by Simon Jacobson. That's what she said. So the manager, the manager comes running downstairs. I kid you not. The manager comes running downstairs, and they're both like, catering to me. You want a coffee, Rabbi? We'll call CNN. We'll this, sit down, be comfortable. So you know what? How often do you have opportunity to play Rebbe? So I decided I'll play along,
You never told me this.
Okay, now you hear it. You have to come to Aliyah to hear Zach Aliyah Dikamaisis. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm sitting there, I'm wondering why do they think the Rebbe of all places would make an appearance in Lexington, Kentucky, And is that the first thing you'd like to have a coffee? Anyway, after a few minutes I felt bad and I just said, listen, what can I tell you? I really apologize and I don't want to disappoint you, but I'm not the Rebbe. I work for him. My name is Simon Jacobson. And they were visibly disappointed. Now you know from the story that they were definitely not Jews, right? Because no Jews would ever believe that, unfortunately. It takes a minute pshuta. Anyway, that's a story that's just an introduction to another story which is far more serious. And I was in St. Louis, that's Lexington. I was in St. Louis, Missouri. This is Midwest, Missouri. Okay. I spoke there, I remember it was a Monday night. It was at JCC, Jewish Community Center there. After I got back to New York, I received a letter, an email from a woman. And she writes, this letter had such impact on me, I remember it word for word, so I'll read it to you from memory. she writes the following. She said, I was in the audience when you spoke in St. Louis. I was going to come over to speak with you, but then I got cold feet. So I decided I'd better put it in writing. And this is what she writes. I'm a 47-year-old executive that works in a very prominent firm here in St. Louis. And by all standards, I'm a success story. I made a lot of money. I'm well connected, a good reputation, and so on. But beneath the veneer, beneath the surface of my success lies a woman in shreds. You see, because my soul was murdered when I was a young child. My soul was murdered due to the abuse that I endured in my home, physical, emotional, sexual abuse. And they murdered my soul. And more than murdered. Murder is once. This is every day another murder. And my life has been a total mess. Relationships are a mess. Intimacy is a mess. I don't trust anyone. They don't trust me. I'm always testing people, testing, until I chase them away. I've tried all types of therapy. That has also not worked. And basically, I just go day by day, breathe in, breathe out, and take another day. I have suicidal thoughts. I have self-loathing. And what do people like me do when they have loss of inner control? You create outer control. So I became very ambitious, I'm very driven, I'm successful, I'm aggressive. But it's just a facade, just to cover up and numb my pain. And I've long given up hope. Someone gave me a copy of your book, Toward a Meaningful Life. I'm Jewish, but non-affiliated. I never went to any synagogue. And I wasn't even going to read the book, but I was browsing through it, like, you look through it, leaf through the pages. And a line jumped out at me that struck me like a silver bullet between my eyes. And it touched a deep chord inside my soul. And that line was, because the beginning of each chapter is a line that I quote the Rebbe. So the line she quotes, she says, the line is, birth is God saying that you matter. And she writes again, birth is God saying that you matter. And writes a third time, birth is God saying you matter. And I will read this line, she continues writing, for the rest of my life. Because I suddenly, for some reason, after 47 years, a truth resonated within me that despite what my parents told me that I was worthless, piece of junk, despite what society tells us that our value is nothing more than the statistic on someone's balance sheet, and that our value is based on our productivity, on our buying power, on our youth, on our looks, on our equity, on our social status, despite all that, I matter to the one that matters most, and that's God. That God chose me, put me on this earth. And this is how she concludes the note. It would be eloquent if it weren't under the circumstances. She writes, so though I have many years to heal, but for the first time in my life I have hope. The work cut out for me is the following, is to bypass the infected arteries that were corrupted and polluted by the abuse I endured and reconnect to the pure moment of birth, the moment I came into this world, before anything happened to me, when God said, you're my child, I need you, you're indispensable, you matter. And then she concludes by saying, so thank you for giving me back my life. That's the letter. Now you can imagine, when I read it, I literally began to cry almost uncontrollably. First of all, a woman sharing a sacred trust like that with me. I didn't know her, she didn't know me. And frankly, what I did was I went back to the book. Even though I wrote the book, but sometimes, a book doesn't belong to the author once it's published. It belongs to the reader. So I wanted to see how she read it. And I went back and began crying again because I saw the line. I remember when I wrote it. And I remember this was a line that, even though the Rebbe didn't say it in English, but it was a line that was repeated many times by the Rebbe and always with very deep emotion. It's actually based on a pasuk in Yeshaya. The Rebbe spoke especially by rallies of Tzivus Hashem. Any of you ever been by any of those rallies? Especially, what was it? The pasuk, Kol Yisrael Yesh Lem Chelik Le'Olam Haba, that's the Maimar Chal. Then it says, Shenemar, Right? Neitzer matoi, maisi yodel is par. Amach kulum tzadikim, neitzer matoi, you're my handiwork. Maisi yodel is par, you're my crafts work that I am proud of. And very often when the Rebbe would quote it, he would say those words. He said that every one of you and every individual matters absolutely, because the fact that you're here, you're not here by accident. You're put here. You have something to accomplish that no one on earth, and the Rebbe said this a number of times, not Moshe Rabbeinu, not Avram, and not Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, and not all the tzaddikim and tzidkonis, all of history. No one can accomplish what you have to accomplish. I heard this several times from the Rebbe myself. So I wanted to capture it, and that was the chapter on birth in Torah Meaningful Life, and that line. And here's a woman in St. Louis, which was at that time 2-3 years after Gimel Tammuz, touched and writing, "Thank you for giving me back my life." So you could imagine the power of that. What is the power of that? Because it means something to each of us. Now I wrote back to that woman, of course, offering her my friendship any way I could help, asking her permission to tell the story, which she gave me, and she told me clearly never to tell her name. She doesn't want people calling her. She says, I'm sure others have similar stories. Or they'll call me, they want to offer their compassion. And she still works on herself, but we're in touch. And I've written to her a number of times. A while later, a few years later, the story never leaves me. It haunts me till this day. I wrote to her a few years later. I wrote back to her once, among our different correspondence. I wrote to her, I want to thank you from the depth of my heart, because I have to tell you that since you've given me permission, I've told the story to many people. Thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. And the reaction has been unbelievable. They still want to contact you, so I'm sure you don't want that, so I assure you I won't share your name. But I wrote to her the following, that I started asking myself the question, do I matter? And I started asking audiences. And I speak quite often in different places. I was just in Manchester, England. I came back yesterday, and I told the story. There was a few 500-600 people, and I asked the question as I ask everyone here right now. Do you think you matter? Really matter? Now, the knee-jerk reaction many people have, that it's like a ridiculous question. Of course I matter. My parents say I'm special, hopefully. I have a plaque on the wall. I this. Everyone's got an ego. Obviously, not everyone answers that, but many people, that's their... But then the question has to be rephrased. Let's say you were never born in the first place. Remember, if you weren't born and you don't arrive in this world, nobody's missing you, so it won't be a tragedy. So do you really matter? Do you matter? 7 billion people on this planet. Would it make a difference if you didn't exist? So most of us, and again, I can't speak for you, I speak for many people. Once we're here, it's called circumstantial value. We have value. Once we're here, we justify our existence. But this woman in St. Louis, as others, unfortunately, did not have the luxury of having parents and a family and friends that reinforced that type of value. She was told she was worthless, more than told. She was treated like she was worthless. But she came to a truth that only a person that comes like that goes through such darkness can come to. They say the eclipse of the sun. When the sun is blocked, it turns dark. I don't know if you've ever seen a solar eclipse. But through a solar eclipse, when it's covered, that's when you see the most powerful light of the sun. That's why it's dangerous to look at the sun at that time. So she was an eclipse. Her life was hell. She grew up in a home where her soul was murdered, as she put it. But as a result, she came to a truth that only people like that come to. That you really matter, not because your parents tell you matter. Because, one day, my parents, I was the oldest of 5 children. And my parents, I guess they spoiled me. You could ask my siblings. They probably have to go to therapy because of me. Not the other way around, because you're like a surrogate older brother. If any of you are oldest, you know what I mean. If you're not, you also know what I mean. So my parents spoiled me, and So if I matter because my parents say I matter, then one day they wake up and they say, you're not so special, do your stocks go down? Your value goes down. This woman came to the ultimate truth, which is stated right in the Chumash, right in the beginning. That because God put you on this earth, nobody can take that away from you because no one gave it to you. Remember that. You absolutely matter because God put you here. Now, it would be great if you had family and you have parents and you have friends and others that reinforce that validate that nurture that. But that doesn't mean that the value comes from them. And frankly, if they don't offer that, tragically, it sometimes can create the delusion that you really don't matter. That's why I believe the Rebbe told that boy in Yechidus. And I'm convinced we all know when the Rebbe tells one person something, even though many of us may not have had the chus to go into the Rebbe's room, but when you hear the story, it's as the Rebbe is telling it to you right now, the same thing. That the Rebbe established for the record, he said, you are absolutely valuable. Wherever you go in the world, you have all the strengths you need, even the greatest challenges. The whole existence is waiting for you to do something, and remember, I'm thinking about you. Why? Because a Rebbe thinks about the whole picture, like a choreographer, like a conductor of a symphony. You have to know each player, what they're doing. And each of us is a musical note that's indispensable. And if you don't play your note, the rest of the existence cannot be complete. And then, of course, you need to know that everyone else has a note that you need as well to complement you. That's the story with the St. Louis woman. Think about it. Birth is God saying that you matter. Now we have to find ways to do something about that and make sure that it becomes a reality in our lives on a daily basis. Because it's a nice theory, it's nice words. But then you have to do something and demonstrate what you can contribute. And when you do that, then you really change existence. So there's no question coming here together, on one hand, there's a sadness in any Yahrzeit, especially of a young life. But remember, in Judaism, every sadness is turned into positive energy. The Rebbe once wrote to a doctor who writes to the Rebbe about the Holocaust. You know, the famous question, why? Why would God do this? Allow it. And this is a unique letter. If any of you want to see it, I have a copy of it. It's not around so much. I could send it to you by email if you send me your email. Would you ask something?
No, it says Dr. Frankel.
No, not Viktor Frankl. There are more doctors on earth than one. But, yeah. So this doctor writes to the Rebbe, asking why, and the Rebbe's response is basically that if God wanted us to know why, He would tell us. The fact that He doesn't tell us means that's not important for our moving forward with our lives. And the Rebbe elaborates on this at length. And then at the end of the letter, this is the unique part. The Rebbe says, you may think that I'm writing to you intellectually, giving you some type of intellectual, Torah, academic answer. It's not the case. I too am a Holocaust survivor. The Rebbe's words. I lost my brother, I lost my grandmother, I lost my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and other family members in Treblinka and other camps. So I'm writing from my heart, not from my mind. That's what the Rebbe concludes. There's a lot of strength when you hear that from a Rebbe, because you think a Rebbe is living up in the spiritual world, so of course for the Rebbe there's no pain. But we're regular mortal people, we do have pain. It's not the case. When my father passed away around 10 years ago, a little more than 10 years ago. You know where I gathered strength most from? Because I remembered, because I had the schus to write and remember and publish the Rebbe's works. So when the Rebbetzin Chaim Mushke was nostalgic, passed away, Chav Be'Shvat, 1988, Tavshim Ches. As opposed to when the Rebbe's mother passed away in 1964, the Rebbe visibly showed his grief, if you can call it that. When the Rebbe Tzachana passed away, I heard from people, I was a kid then, I don't remember it so vividly, that the Rebbe was very discreet and quiet about it. I mean, he spoke about it, but it was not... In 1988, on the other hand, in every possible way, the Rebbe showed his pain. He spoke about it, every Fabrengen B'chayit Neliboy, the living shall take to heart. He moved his whole operation from 770 to President Street, where his house, for an entire year. It couldn't have been more visible. Said every day, davened every day, 3 times a day, even though halachically didn't have to. And on and on and on. There's many more examples of it. And I always wondered why the Rebbe, who was so private, especially regarding the Rebbetzin, why would the Rebbe so visibly show it? I remember even Shloshim, the Shloshim when the Rebbetzin, which was 30 days after Chav Be'Shvat, was Parsha Parah. And the Rebbe spoke this sikha, very, very heart-wrenching. And he asked the question. In Parsha Parah we read, how Moshe Rabbeinu shown, the Medrash tells us, how Moshe Rabbeinu shown all the tumas, all the impurities that exist, and Hashem showed him every impurity, here's how you purify. And it came to one thing, tumas mes, the impurity of death. Suddenly it says, Niskarkim upon Moshe's face became very yellowish green, like very disturbed, very pale. He began to tremble. How could you ever cleanse and purify from the impurity of death? And I remember the Rebbe saying, I remember it like today, the Rebbe asked him the question, what bothered Moshe Rabbeinu? Just like God gives, God takes, and God, just like there's the impurity of death, God can create the purity that comes, that heals from death. And Moshe Rabbeinu definitely knew he was Chachma de Kedusha, Chachma de Atzilus, the wisest. He definitely knew all the explanations in Chassidus. As soon as the Rebbe said that, it was very clear he was talking about himself. He knew all the explanations of Chassidus that you read at Tzerech Aliyah, every descent brings an ascent, and we don't understand God's ways, and all the explanations. And yet, why was he so disturbed? And the Rebbe's answer was equally dramatic. The Rebbe's responded, because after all the seichel, and after all the intelligence, and all the beautiful explanations, quote unquote beautiful, the fact of the matter is, death is a cutoff. Even though the neshama lives on, the fact that we cannot see it, Moshe Rabbeinu, that's what disturbed him, because he empathized. He wasn't talking theoretically what's possible. He was talking about the pain that we human beings on this earth do not feel, and cannot touch, and cannot shake the hand, and not embrace, and not look at the person we love. We could only think about them. That's what broke his heart. So Moshe wasn't just, it wasn't a technical thing for him, it was personal. And because he cried for it, he identified with our crying. I remember when that sikha, I said to myself, the Rebbe should say that. It's very rare the Rebbe should expose such emotion. It was just not the Rebbe's style, so to speak. So I have no doubt, I'm sure there's all kinds of reasons, but I have no doubt the Rebbe was giving strength for anyone that would ever have to cry. And anyone that would ever have to go through such a painful moment, that they should know that it's not just mortal people like us who cry, but even Rebbes cry. And even a Moshe Rabbeinu trembles. That we're there, he's there with us. The Rebbe is with you not just in good times, but also in challenging times. I don't know who said this, but they say about a Rebbe that he once told someone who had a great loss, I have no answers for you, but I can cry with you. Don't ever underestimate that power, because there's a connection there. So, what shall we say? We'll say this, as the based on the Likutei Diburim and the Rebbe's words, the thought, however, is there. We could think about each other. And that's why we're here. We're talking and thinking about a neshama, how that neshama impacted each of us. Of course, a mother, but all of us as well. And above all, what are we going to do about it? That's how Jews think. We don't think, oy vey, what's going to be? What are we going to do about it? Action. Proactive action. Rabbi Lau, the former chief rabbi of Israel, chief rabbi of Tel Aviv today, told me this story. Personally, he said when he came for the first time to the United States, it was 1974. It was right after the Yom Kippur War. Okay. And the Rebbe asked him in Yechidus, the Rebbe asked him, what's the mood in Israel? And I tell the story specifically because of the events going on now there as well. What's the mood in Israel? And he said to the Rebbe, the mood in Israel is not good. Jews are asking, was wird sein? What's going to be? Why? Because during the 6-Day War, which was just 7 years earlier, there was euphoria, the miracles in 6 days with very few casualties. I mean, every casualty is more than necessary, one more than enough, but relatively speaking, miracles. And there was such euphoria in the Jewish world. But here, by Yom Kippur War, mistakes were made, there was arrogance, cockiness, and the beginning was not good news. And then finally, thank God, the Jews turned it around. But there were more than a few thousand losses, which is a tremendous amount for a country like Eretz Yisrael. So he was telling the Rebbe, the mood is very bad. And Jews are asking, what's going to be? The way he tells the story is that the Rebbe grabbed his wrist, Rabbi Lau's wrist, like this, and said, Harav Lau, bei Eden fragt man nicht, was wird sein, man fragt, was geht man tun. By Jews, we don't ask what will be, we ask, what are we going to do? Not ma yiyeh, ma naseh. What are we going to do? A victim asks what will be. What will be means, I can't do anything. Too bad. you wallow in self-pity. You're bitter, you're angry, or you're just plain apathetic or numb. But a Jew does never ask what will be. He asks, what am I going to do? Because that's a testimony that you have the power to do something. But sometimes it's difficult to do it alone. That's why we have friends. That's why we have support. That's why we have an aliyah. In more ways than one. That's why you have that ability. But never forget, even though even though I myself can't do it alone, but at the end of the day, your friends empower you. They don't do it for you. They just help you help yourself. Because that's the great dignity of a human being, that you could get out of any situation. That's the ultimate blessing. And that's what the Rebbe told Rav Lau. And there are hundreds of such stories. There was a women's convention midwinter convention in Detroit, Michigan. And Mrs. Swerdlov tells the story. So they were coming back after the convention. It was Friday. So they get to the airport, there's a snowstorm. So they write a note, or they call on the phone, and their note says, we're stuck in the snow. That's what everybody says, right? Stuck in the snow. You should see the Rebbe's answer when he said the word stuck. You don't write that to the Rebbe, stuck. The Rebbe circled the word stuck. He said he never heard Jews speak such language. He never stuck. And the Rebbe goes on to say that if you're there, it means there's a message. And the Rebbe continues, he says, the women at the convention probably talked about Hashgacha Pratis, divine providence, and they forgot to apply the message to themselves. That if there's a snowstorm, it means there's a message from heaven that you have to still be there. And it's even more so because it's a snowstorm. Where does snow fall from? From heaven. So it's a message from heaven. The Rebbe writes that. That means that you still didn't finish your job in Detroit, either at the airport or going back from the airport back to the city, and there's something you still have to do. And when you finish it, the snow will stop and you'll be able to come home. Anyway, they took that to heart and they did whatever they could do. Sunday the snow stopped and they did come home. And the Rebbe wrote to them that now apparently that you can come back means you must have finished the job. I myself experienced this. My father, God forbid, had a stroke, a mini stroke, Rosh Hashanah Tov Shenun. That would be 1989. And he had to be in the hospital Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Okay? I went by the Rebbe wanted to give him lekach, so I came. The Rebbe gave me the honey cake, Erev Yom Kippur, and said to me, give this to your father as Al-Mazis Yarg, sweet year. And then the Rebbe added with a smile, und zogem, as a verendik in sein Schlichus dorten, but Maris losen. When he'll finish his mission in the hospital, they'll release him. So I went to the hospital, carrying this message from the Rebbe, and my father, of course, took it positively. My mother started running around doing mivtzayim in the whole hospital. My father said, I'm the one in the hospital. You're just visiting me. It's not your shlichus, it's my shlichus. I'll do it my way, not your way. And my father, whatever he did his thing. Just to show you there wasn't just a joke, after Yom Kippur, Rabbi Chadakov came to the hospital to see my father. And the Rebbe wants to know, he asked, whether you already finished your mission, so you could already be released. So my father said, I hope so. And he was released a few days later, thank God. Yeah. These are not just stories, nice, humorous ones. They're an attitude to life. It's an attitude, there's no such thing as impossible. There's no such thing as inevitable. There's not language of Jews. Why is anyone you know why Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year? Why is it the holiest day of the year? So most people say, okay, God happened to choose the 10th of Tishrei. It could have been the 10th of Cheshvan or the 10th of Kislev. No. There's a reason. Because on that day, Moshe Rabbeinu did something that no human being in history ever did. You know what he did? He prevailed over God. The Jews built a golden calf. There aren't many greater sins than building an idol. You have to die before you worship an idol. And here, the third day, the great Jewish people did 39 days after receiving the Torah, the biggest event in history. What do? They build a golden calf. We'll analyze the reasons for that, but they did it. Moshe comes down from the mountain, and what does he do? He shatters the tablets and marches back on the mountain and demands from God to forgive the people. I don't know if you know this, but you know why he shattered the tablets? Not because he got angry. Everyone thinks he was out of control. No, it was very deliberate. See, Moshe was the shadchan. He was the broker, the shadchan, the matchmaker between God and the Jewish people. And the luchas is the contract. Is the luchas that say, Lo yeh lecha lekim achem. As long as the Jews, here we have a lawyer in this town here, right now here, he came in perfect timing. As long as you didn't sign the contract or deliver it, you only heard Lo yeh lecha. They only heard the prohibition. They didn't sign it, they didn't receive it. So Moshe broke the luchas to be able to then say, you know what, I didn't give it to them. Can you imagine Mesiras Nefesh of a Rebbe to do that? To break the tablets. The tablets were not, when a Sefer Torah, God forbid, falls, by accident is considered a whole tragic day, and you fast and all that. Here it's not just a Sefer Torah, it's the ultimate. It's the luchas that God himself formed and shaped and gave to Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe doesn't do it by accident, deliberately breaks the luchas. Exactly what he said. Macheni no mesifrecha, erase my name from your book if you're not going to forgive them. Never in history did anyone ever do anything like that, such Mesiras Nefesh. Because he didn't just give away his body, his soul. He's ready to, his whole future, the spiritual future. The Rebbe once spoke a whole sikh on the Simchas Torah, 1986, crying like a child when the Rebbe spoke this sikh. Well, what did Moshe accomplish? So he went up on the mountain for 40 days, another 40 days, and was not successful. So then he went a third time 40 days. And when does he come down? Yom Kippur. And what do we say right after Kol Nidrei? Salachti kidvarecha. God said, I forgive, as you've said. Why? Because Moshe was able to accomplish something. God said no, 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 no. And Moshe knocked down the door and would not take no for an answer. Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year. You know why? Because on that day, what was born was hope. Hope. Hope is the greatest gift in life. Because, like for example, someone says to you, God says, I want to offer you anything you want. Many people say, give me a perfect life. That's an immature request. That's not realistic. You want to say like this, that whatever happens in my life, whatever happens in my life, I want to have the hope to know that I can fix. That's a far greater blessing. That means there's nothing in the world that can destroy us. And look, here we are, the Jewish people after thousands of years. Who would believe? So, the bottom line message is the following, that each of you, each of us, has unbelievable power. Despite the tragedy that what we're honoring here today, so as I said, it's a sad moment, but at the end of the day, Jews take sadness, its energy, its negative energy, and we turn it into positive energy. By becoming stronger, more committed to our own lives, to sing your song. And yes, birth is God saying you matter. And you have a great Rebbe thinking about you. And you have friends that think about you. And as much as we think, we have to, obviously, in a night like this, make a commitment to think even more about each other. Because machshava me'elis, thought changes things. Don't ever underestimate that. If you're sitting in a room and you think about somebody, even if they're not there that moment, and you care, sincerely, it has an effect. And today, if you know a little quantum mechanics, it's not such a miracle either. Energy is exuded from us, like good vibes. You can't see them, but they have an effect. The butterfly effect, you ever hear of that? A butterfly flaps its wings in Kansas City and it can create a typhoon in Singapore. I don't know why those two places, but that's what they say. So that means you can flap your wings in your privacy of your own little place and have an effect on everybody around you. So tonight we think about Yossi. I've hearted this together with his mother, family, friends, brother, that you should have the strength to fill the cholol, the emptiness. We say hamokim yenachem, hamokim. Why do we say hamokim yenachem? Because it's a space that's empty. So God becomes the space that fills that space. I remember when I was sitting shiva for my father, I don't remember anything that was said to me except one thing. Someone told me, I don't even know who, they said when there's a death, when there's a loss, it's like a hole in your heart. It's like a hole in your living room. And you keep falling into it until one day you learn to walk around it. It never goes away. The heart, the hole is there. But you learn to walk around it and you learn to build around it. So Hashem should bless you and all the friends and all of us here to use this cholol, to use this v'nifkadeto ki yipoked me'shavecha, that sometimes when we don't see someone, it makes the yearning and the pining and the aspiration much deeper. We don't take it for granted. And beyond that, all of you special souls, with all your own journey, your own twists and turns, to recognize that this is The entire existence is waiting for you to do something with your life in that place that you are right now, and wherever God will lead you, to change the world in some way. And we're here to join together in that way. Many people are involved with their superficial nonsense and narishkeiten. I think a place like this has a certain, as I said with the story with the St. Louis woman, we don't always have, when things don't work exactly as planned, there's a certain truth that emerges. Like the truth of that woman, that you realize why, the importance of life, you appreciate it, When you see someone on a respirator and they can't breathe, you suddenly appreciate breathing a lot better than the rest of us that take it for granted. So let's use this evening well, make the right resolutions and achlotas. Thank you again, it's been an honor to share a few words. And Aliyah, Kishmai Kain Hu, it's an Aliyah, we don't even use the word Yerida, you just use Aliyah. Because as the Rebbe explains, that even the descent is part of the ascent. When you build a great building, sometimes you have to raise the old building, right? Raise as in Z, R-A-Z-E. You have to. And if someone comes and says, hey, why are you breaking down this building? You'll say, I'm not breaking it down, I'm building a better Beis HaMikdash. So then the Yerida, even the Seiser, even what seems to be for a moment a void or a negative, is actually part of the positive, because the only way to grow. Right. So may this Aliyah be a true Aliyah, and as the Neshama goes, it's Aliyah every year. So it elevates also each of us in greater ways. Just reminded me, I once read somewhere, a caterpillar, a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. Right? The caterpillar goes into a chrysalis, into a cocoon. So the story is told, so it takes time once it goes into the cocoon. Then the cocoon begins to open, like an egg begins to crack, and the butterfly begins to emerge. So there was a guy saw a butterfly struggling to get out of the cocoon because the cocoon wasn't yet open. So he, out of his great compassion, you know what he did? He took a pair of scissors and began to cut the cocoon to let the butterfly out. And the butterfly suddenly free, and he was such a simcha. But one little small tragedy. For a butterfly to fly, it needs a certain buoyancy, the type of lift. The wings need liquid in them. And how that liquid spreads into the wings is through the pressure of the butterfly struggling to get out of the cocoon. And his compassion, taking away the struggle from the butterfly, did not allow the liquid to enter the wings, so the butterfly never could fly. Just tells you what challenges are like. Challenges help us build wings, that we can fly to places you can never reach on your own. So God should bless us all to understand our challenges are really wings. Fly to great places, Aliyah, flight. Take flight, may your souls soar, and may the neshama of Yossi help us all soar. May we be reunited with Yossi, with the Rebbe, with all great tzaddikim, chassidim, and all those of parents or relatives or loved ones that are physically not here with us. And remember, let us think about them and they think about us, and that machshava can pierce all the barriers. So thank you again. We should only have simchas and good occasions to Mr. Alexander and the whole mishpacha, and all of you here. Thank you. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim.
Thank
you, Rabbi Jacobson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Jacobson. It was an absolute honor to have you, and it's chus for the neshama of Yossi, and for all of Yossi's friends that came out here tonight. I want to thank you all for joining us, and everyone's welcome to stay. And we'll bring Chaverim, Achim Gam Yachad, and thank you again.